Hey guys, my name is Kirsty and welcome back to Upside Down Books. Today we're going to be doing my TBR jar for September.
Non più tra I farfalloni amoroso, notte giorno di torno.
I am so excited and shocked that it is already September and we are already doing this, but I'm excited because it feels like it's been a long time since I've done a TBR jar. Obviously last month I had a separate TBR and I was doing ARC August, so I didn't do a TBR jar pick last month, which was super sad. But this month we are, and we're going to be going back to the OG system. But before we get into it, I do want to just go over again one extra TBR challenge I have set myself for the rest of the year and probably ongoing into next year, maybe the year after that. So I mentioned this in my wrap up that I was taking on a new challenge, and that challenge is the 300 TBR challenge. So I am trying to get my physical TBR on these shelves down a bit because I'm well over 300 books unread across all of my shelves, and so I'd set myself the goal when I was at 361 to reduce that down to 300. I'm just going to quickly go over the rules on that before we get into this, just because there is going to be extra emphasis and effort put in on my behalf to get to my backlist picks for this month in order to start making progress on this other challenge. So in order to do that, I'm going on a book buying ban, and I'm not going to buy any books until I reach 300, but I'm also not expecting I'm going to actually finish this goal, because that is a huge task. But I do have rules and consequences if I break this challenge, and some of those consequences include donating a book for when I buy, donating match for match the amount I spend on the book, or donating something appropriate, depending on how much I've spent on the books and what the book's topic is on, or something along those lines. I'm being reasonably flexible with consequences because it does sort of depend on the type of books I buy. For instance, I recently bought 2 non-fiction books about climate change, which you will see in my haul coming soon, and I could not match dollar for dollar as they were much more expensive than your usual book, so I donated to plant trees instead. That's sort of the framework that I'm working with there to try and keep me in line. And obviously when I buy books, the TBR number goes up, which means it becomes harder and harder to reach 300 again. So I think I'm just going to aim to read those 61 books and see if I can read 61 books before I let myself go wild on the book buying again. And that is purely just 61 books of my own books, not ARCs, not audiobooks, not ebooks, physical books on my bookshelves. Partially to curb spending, partially to save space, but who knows, we'll see. So that is an extra challenge that's going on, so keep your eyes peeled for that. Make sure you head over to Instagram and follow me at OzBooksnail, and I will be giving updates there on my stories as to the progress of that goal. I also have a highlight where you can check in. But on to the TBR jar for September. I'm so excited. I really hope it's a good TBR. So I'm really hoping for some easy reading this month because I am in the final 2 months of my master's degree and I'm tired and there's a lot going on, so I could definitely do with some easy reads. And I still have quite a few arcs to get through that I haven't finished off in August, so there is that to keep in mind as well. So the first jar that we're going to pick from today is my sequels jar, of which there are many huge ones in here, so it is always so scary to see what will come out. I would really love this to be a Ranger's Apprentice. That would be perfect. Okay, it's not a Ranger's Apprentice, but it's not Game of Thrones, so that's a win, isn't it? So I pulled out a book called Pure, and that is the sequel to a Jennifer L. Armentrout book, which I haven't read for many years, so I've got to see if I remember what happened. No joke, it just took me about 5 solid minutes to try and locate this book, and it was literally in this cubbyhole right here. So I pulled out Pure, which is the sequel to Half-Blood by Jennifer L. Armentrout. Now this is a paranormal series, and I think it's about, God, I can't remember. I've actually read book 1 and I've read the novellas. And I think they're descended, that's right, they're descended from gods and mortals. So it kind of has Percy Jackson vibes for like a Camp Half-Blood sort of thing. I remember really enjoying Half-Blood, and it was one of the few sequels I actually remembered to go out and purchase, but it's just been on my shelf forever and ever. So that'll be really interesting to read, but I will definitely need to refresh my mind by finding a recap online, or hopefully my review, if I wrote one, will be helpful to jog my memory, but we will see. So that is the first pick for September. So next is my ARCs jar. So these are all my like backlist ARCs. You know the drill. So let's see what comes out of this one. Last month was a DNF, so I'm hoping for something a little bit better, but we will see. So I have pulled out a book called Something to Tell You. I think that might be a mystery, so that could be quite fitting as we're coming up to Halloween. But I can't recall what the book is off the top of my head. Okay, I found it. So this is Something to Tell You, and it is by Lucy Diamond. It has a stunning cover and a beautiful pink spine. So I was sent this by Pam Macmillan, and this was an unsolicited copy, which means I did not request it, but I was very happy to receive it and share the word when it was published. But now it is my time to read it. So the tagline on this one is "What's your biggest secret?" And I am anticipating this to be a light but entertaining read. This is the very beginning of the blurb. When Frankie stumbles upon an unopened letter from her late mother, she's delighted to have one last message from her, until she reads the contents and discovers the truth about her birth. Brimming with questions, she travels to York to seek further answers from the Mortimer family, but her appearance sends shockwaves through them all. I'm really hoping this will be an entertaining read. It's got big margins, it's got big fonts, so it shouldn't be too consuming, but fingers crossed that that will be a good read. Next I'm going to pick for my presents jar. This is always the most exciting jar, I think, because this is like the creme de la creme of all the books on my shelves that I want to read. So we will see. Anything from here will also count towards my 300 TBR challenge, because presents from Christmas and birthdays gone by are now part of that TBR. I count them the same way. So let's see what I pull out. Oh my god, that is a great one to have pulled out. So I pulled out Project Hail Mary, if you can read my handwriting. So that's the latest book by Andy Weir, and it was a book that I got with a voucher that my uncle sent me, and I'm so excited to read it. It's also a huge book, which surprised me because I remember it being smaller, but this is Project Hail Mary, and I'm so excited to read this. I have read The Martian. I haven't read Artemis, but I do want to one day. But yeah, I was very excited to get my hands on a copy of this. The opening lines for this one is "A lone astronaut, an impossible mission, and an ally he never imagined." I just expect that this is going to be really good, and ever since I read the Christopher Paolini book at the end of last year, I've really whetted my appetite to have another proper sci-fi written like this, and Andy Weir is definitely an author who will be able to deliver on that front. So this should be really good, and I am expecting this to be a 5-star read. I'll be really disappointed if it's not, I'm not gonna lie. Okay, I'm going to save the backlist for last, which means that we're going to do my diversity jar next. There are some amazing books in here, so I have high expectations. I don't know, there's a few books in particular in here that I'm really excited for, so let's see what comes out of the jar for this month. I have pulled out a book I've already pulled out before. Okay, so I've pulled out The Map of Salt and Stars. You can see it's blue because when I wrote it back up on my spreadsheet and printed it out, I highlighted the ones in blue that I've picked before but haven't read. Now the rule with this is if I pull out a book I've already picked before and didn't get to, it has to be number 1 on my list for that new TBR. The Map of Salt and Stars is set in Syria, and it is set in 2011 and also 800 years prior. So this is the beautiful cover to this one. It's not a very big book, and I have really high expectations that this will be good. There's a part of me that's definitely a little bit nervous that it might be quite literary and slow reading, but I am so excited to read it. I believe I got this for my birthday one year, so I have really been wanting to get around to this. It's one of those that I have not made and read in time before the next birthday. So this begins in 2011, and in the city of Homs, the peace is disturbed by some protests and shelling that begin. So the main character in this one is called Noor, and she flees the city and across North Africa in search of safety. And then it swaps to an alternate perspective 800 years earlier. The character that we follow in this earlier time set is called Rawia, and she's disguised as a boy and is apprenticed to a famous map maker. Her mission in the earlier timeline is to map the globe, and she sets on a very similar quest to Noor in the current timeline. So I hope that this will be really good and entertaining, whilst also quite tragic and sad and hitting on a lot of different topics and themes. I'm really looking forward to this. So that brings me to my backlist. I will be picking 2 books from here because I pick 6 books every week, so that leaves me with 4 books currently picked and 2 are coming from here. I am obviously placing extra emphasis on trying to get through my backlist because of my 300 TBR challenge, so let's see what on earth is going to come out of here this month. There's so many books in here. This is so full. Guys, I picked a good one. Oh, I've picked out a Leigh Bardugo book. Happy days. So I have picked out Ninth House. So this is like one of the only books I think Leigh Bardugo has written which is not set in the Grishaverse, and I've been meaning to read this for ages. So this is Ninth House. I have a lovely hardback edition of it, and my dad actually got this for me as a surprise present when he was abroad once, and I've always felt really guilty that I still haven't gotten around to it, but now I can. I believe this one has some darker themes in it, so I am really looking forward to this. This is so exciting that I've picked this up. So I believe this is set in a freshman year at Yale University. The main character is called Alex, and I believe there's some paranormal activities going on. So Alex is a dropout and the sole survivor of a horrific and unsolved crime, and the last thing she wants is to cause trouble. So Yale is supposed to be her fresh start, but a free ride to one of the world's most prestigious universities was bound to come with a catch. So when she gets to the university, she gets tasked with monitoring and tracking some of the activities of the secret societies, and these societies have produced some really famous people in the world, and then a dead girl turns up. So I think this is going to be a bit of a murder mystery. I'm really looking forward to it. It's such a long book, but it is highly rated, so very happy with that pick. Which brings us to the final pick of the month. Please let it be good. I hope there will be no classics picked this month. Oh, I've picked out a Philippa Gregory book. So this is actually quite a new addition to my TBR, and I don't think I've done a book haul showing it off yet. But I've picked out The White Queen. So Philippa Gregory is an author that is rapidly coming quickly onto my radar, and I actually really want to read Tidelands, but I keep reading all of her other books first. So this is White Queen. I managed to pick up a secondhand copy of it, which is in reasonably good condition with a few tears at the top there, from a secondhand bookstore. And it looks stunning without its cover on, because without this little cover, it is just the portrait of the woman, which I think is quite unique. I've never seen a book like that before. So this is going to be historical fiction. So Philippa Gregory writes a lot of English historical fiction, so let me read the blurb for you of this one. So this one is set during the War of the Roses, so I'm really excited to read this because I haven't read anything on the War of the Roses, and I believe I even had something on my TBR a couple of months ago that was on that topic, which I didn't get to. But this is the blurb. Elizabeth Woodville of the House of Lancaster is widowed when her husband is killed in battle. Aided and abetted by the raw ambition and witchcraft skills of her mother Jacquetta, Elizabeth seduces and marries in secret reigning King Edward IV of the family of the White Rose, the House of York. As long as there are other claimants to Edward's throne, the profound rivalries between the two families will never be laid to rest. Violent conflict, shocking betrayal, and murder dominate Elizabeth's life as Queen of England, passionate wife of Edward, and devoted mother of their children. I think this is going to be really good, and I hope and expect that her writing standards will be at the high level of which I've read her stuff before. So this is my TBR for September. I'm actually reasonably happy with these picks. It feels quite big though. We've got some high page counts clocking in for this month, so I'm hopeful, but I've been doing a lot of reading lately, so I am crossing my fingers and hoping that I'll be able to get to at least a few of these. It would be nice to really get through a TBR for once, but we will see what happens. So let me know in the comments down below if you've read any of these or if you're planning to, and I will see you in my next video. Goodbye.